Well, that video ended. That video ended me saying some crazy-ish. That's awesome. Thank you, Rustin. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, people have been asking me what the secret to that is. I get asked quite a bit, what's the secret to staying creative? It's finding a very narrow door. That's the secret. What's up, Vivek? Good to see you here, man. You gotta find a very narrow door. And then you have access to it. I'm telling you guys, it should be taught in school. But like most good things are not, they're never taught in school. Um, we're trying to get people to teach belief systems in school. More belief systems. Schools are filled with that, with belief systems. A lot of good stuff too, but a lot of belief systems. And I don't know why the world goes that way. Trying to teach belief systems to its children, either religious, patriotic, nationalist belief systems. Nothing but belief systems. And we miss the most fundamental thing about existence, human existence, which is the human experience. Something that is not rooted in a belief. That's an experience is something that's not rooted in a belief. The word carries its meaning inside of it. Is outside. Is exit. We're fascinated with belief systems. We're fascinated with the word I'm going to find that out for myself, meaning I'm going to go and Google it, I'm going to research, I'm going to check my facts, I'm going to check my beliefs. We're fascinated with that. Rather than I'm going to sit here, I'm going to close my eyes for a second, and I'm not going to think about any of this for a second or 2 seconds. We're taught to trust our beliefs rather than trust ourselves. You can't really trust a belief. It wasn't yours to begin with. There's nothing to trust it. It's got no ground other than it was given by someone else, and it's just passed from person to person. It's a belief. It's something you accept. It's not something you experience. It's something you accept. And of course, not all beliefs are bad. We have beliefs like, I don't know, I'm supposed to participate in this religion or learn this language. The problem with beliefs is that many times they can be cancerous. They start growing, and they come from well-intended places. The brain is very smart. It's very astute. It comes from a very well-intended place. It almost creates its own utopias. It convinces itself of something. And it creates its own utopias. You know, better known as mindfucks. Today we know them as mindfucks. It's rooted in hope. When I achieve this, when I get there, when the world is a better place, when this president or that president, when these people or that people, it's rooted in hope. It's looking for an outcome, and it's usually a utopic one, which of course is a bunch of bullshit. It's never. It can't do it. It can't deliver on its promise, because a belief can never deliver on a promise. And if it does, it can't for too long. Because it's not, that house is not built on rocks. They're sound castles. So sooner or later, what was something beautiful, it started as a beautiful idea, a good intention. It starts making its way, because I believe what a belief wants to do, it wants to survive. Its number one job is to survive, and so it reproduces itself. That's why I said it's cancerous. It tries to survive. So something beautiful like love of people, love of community, turns into and it doesn't matter which way. Something beautiful, love of people, love of community, love of country, turns into, not just patriotism anymore. It turns into nationalism, and it turns into, now we're looking at hostiles. We're looking for hostiles, and it doesn't matter what party. At both ends, it happens. That's just one example at one end, but at both ends it happens, and in the same exact way. I love that. Yeah, it's right there. You can't, you can easily miss it if you start thinking about it. Just don't think about it. Keep doing your work. Or not. Just sit there. You start. It seems like the keys are breath. The keys to get in, it almost feels that way. Each breath gets you closer, opens the door a little bit more. The cool thing is that everything goes away. for a second. No, nobody really lives there. Very few people, and that's fine. But most people don't live there. It's not. I don't think it's evolutionary. We're not there yet. But some people have stayed there, right? We know that some people, or if you want to call them deities, whatever your belief system is. Some people live there. Some people live there, like Saint Francis of Assisi lived there. Jesus lived there. Buddha lived there, and a few others. Right? They live they crossed past the door and they stay there. Most of us, we're not. We're able to open and peek into the door, and then we start thinking, and then we get out right away. We start thinking about our situation, our problems, our needs, our wants, and then we get out. I don't think that the goal is to live in there. Maybe as a species, maybe, I don't know. But I think knowing that you have access to it, I think it's really what matters. Knowing that when you feel lost or when you don't feel creative, you have access to that door. And you can always open it. I almost feel as if that door is like I don't know, like if we're fish and we're trying to go into land and we're trying to jump outside of the water into the land. I know it's a little Darwinian, but whatever. Just bear with me. And then we're outside and we can't breathe because we're not used to oxygen. So we peek out a little bit and then we go back into the water where we feel safe and we can breathe easily. But there's it's a weak comparison, and it's a weak comparison because it's not another reality. It is the only reality. It's not another reality. It's the motherfucking Matrix. I'm just joking. And the funny thing is that you can only access it when you're quiet, mentally quiet. Your mind is quiet. You can also access it when you feel very, very tired or very, very, very exhausted physically. You can also access it then, because your mind ceases to fight, and so your mind gives up, and then you have access to it. And you're very tired. Your brain utilizes about 30% of the entire energy of your body. And so when you tire your brain, whether you went through something very horrible in your life, very hurt, like something hurt a lot, something very, very a deep cut in your life, then you have access to it. That's why someone out there said, the first will be the last, and the last will be the first. The sinners will get there faster. Right? It's not about sinning. It's about, as we know it, it's about just feeling like you fucked up too many times. And so your mind gives up, starts giving up, and so you start finding access to that. That's why if you experience trouble in your life, you're looking for that. And people look for it. People are looking for it. They go to churches. They start looking for it. And so they have a taste of it in religious ceremonies or in religious practices. They have a taste of it, but it's not quite there yet. But it is a path. Someone with a troubled life is closer to it than someone who's had a really nice, happy life. It's probably closer. I mean, everybody's closest, but what I mean closer is that you're going to actually look for it, where other people are not going to look for it. They're too comfortable. Life hasn't smacked them around enough. This is podcast material. Totally, huh? You should make a podcast out of it. And people have called it different things. You know? Like I said, someone called it the kingdom of heaven. Other people called it nirvana. People call it where Abraham resides. Call it different. They refer to it as different things. Some of us call it the Matrix. No, I'm joking. No, it'd be a cheap comparison. I'd be diluting it badly. But that is the doorway to creativity, in my experience. If you want to be creative, it doesn't matter what you do. Writer, a better parent, a better son. And it's not like you go get creativity. It's already in you. you just don't have access to it. You don't have access to it because there's so much chatter in our minds that there's no access. Again, it's like walking around being the wealthiest man in the world and not knowing that you have $10 billion in your bank account and you're begging in the corner for someone to spare a little bit of change. And we live like that. Unfortunately, we live like that. It's like owning the house and knocking on the door asking permission to go in. so that's why I say that belief systems make it much more difficult to go in, to go through that door. Because nothing dirty enters through that door, meaning no concepts. All concepts are left outside. You can walk in, but you have to leave the concepts outside. Your thoughts, your concepts, your beliefs, your structures have to be left outside. And that's not very easy to do because we were taught to depend on our structures and our concepts. It's not very easy to do. We depend, in our minds, we depend on our structures, on our whatever the structures are. They could be physical structures, such as our body, our possessions, or they could be mental structures, such as our roles that we play, right? Father, son, spouse, citizen, soldier, doctor. Those are also structures. So we learn to depend on them, because in our minds we think that that's who we are. It teaches us that that's who we are. And so we it's almost like we're playing this comedy, this Greek comedy, and we believe the role. We're not playing with understanding that it's a role and I'm just a character in the role. We're not playing like that. We're playing convinced that I am Caesar in this comedy. Because I'm not saying we shouldn't honor the role. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fun, right? If you don't honor the role, there's nothing to watch. It's not fun. But you don't have to believe it either. You don't have to get lost in it either. It can be a role, and you can play it. You can play it beautifully. Just like when I'm making this painting, right? I'm making this painting. I don't have to believe that it's real. That it's a landscape that I can just walk into, you know. No, I understand that it's a canvas and it's an expression and an optical illusion, and it's okay. But it's also okay to have fun with it and honor the role of the painting. Otherwise, what fun is it? I think the problem happens when the king and the soldiers and whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. Just to drive my point home, right? The king and the soldiers believe soul-heartedly in the role that they forget that they're in a comedy. And so they believe so hard that they're willing to hurt others. They're so invested in the role. And we begin to hurt others and not recognize that we're hurting others. and not mind either that we're hurting others. We're not creating so much pain around us because the role is feels so real. Almost like Westworld. Anyone seen Westworld? Almost like that. You're giving this role, but you believe it so hard that you don't realize that you don't have to believe it so hard. But it's a game. That it's there to experience, to be an experience. Like going to Disneyland in Indiana Jones. No one's really trying to capture you and kill you. Right? But it's nice. It's fun to believe that for a second. Right? Get lost in that game. You're in Indiana Jones in Disneyland, and the arrows are shooting at you, and it's fun. But I don't think anyone in the right mind says, "Oh my God, I'm really going to die here. This is really happening to me." No, it's fun. It's for shits and giggles. It's just really fun. I think that's what life is. It's a big theme park. It's a golden ticket. It's a beautiful place. We believe it too much in it, and the way that we do it, and we end up feeling so much pain and causing so much pain to others. And this is what happens to artists, right? It happens to everybody. Oh, my paintings have to be, and it's so much pain around the tortured artist. No, it's a role. It's okay. Have fun with it. It's a role. You're playing an artist, but you're not an artist. You're playing a role. You've been granted the opportunity to play a role in this big theme park. I'm not an artist. I mean, I am, but it's a role. Just like an American, a husband, a father, it's a role. So there's a level of seriousness to it, of course, but nonetheless, it's a role. I'm not saying this to discredit that there's seriousness to certain roles. Of course there is. But always understanding that it's a role. This is the role. I'm going to honor it to the best of my knowledge, the best of my possibilities, but it's a role. Always keep that in mind. Nothing ultimately is real. If it dies, it was never real. If it was born, it was never real to begin with. Anything that is born or dies is not real. It feels, right? It feels, sure as hell feels real. There's emotion attached to it. But ultimately it was never real. ultimately, right, in the great scheme of things, of course it's real. Of course people are there's a level of reality, of course, to it. But in the great scheme of things, in huge perspective and distance with bird's eye view, you realize it's not real. It can't be. That which is real is not born or dies. It's the playground. It's where things happen. The only real thing is the playground. And the only real thing is the playground, that it's not really a thing, right? Because the space can't be a thing. It cannot be objectified as the subject. This is where shit happens. And I think that this is why, one of the reasons why, as artists, we have, I mean, anything that you do, right? But specifically here, talking about artists, we have such a hard time. Many times we have such a hard time loving what we do, or doing it with pride and with honor, with love. It's because we're lost in the role. The path of finding your way back to Kansas. You want to find your way back to Kansas. You have to stop thinking so much. That's why Raphael said, when an artist paints, an artist cannot think. That's why Monet said, when you're painting something, he said, don't call it anything. What he meant is don't objectify it. He's like, if you're painting a river, don't call it a river in your mind, because then in your mind you're objectifying, and your mind is trying to come up with a concept. The concept of a river, and then therefore you're not painting it anymore, you're painting the concept. And you stop looking at the river, so you miss the experience and you got something cheap. Every time you form a belief, you're exchanging the richness and the vastness, the complete life of an experience, for something cheap called a concept. That's why Jiddu Krishnamurti said, the Indian sage said, when you I think it was him who said, when you teach a boy to name a bird, he will stop looking at the bird. If you teach the boy the word bird, the boy will stop looking at the bird. The child was. That's what I'm trying to say with boy. The child. The child no longer will see the bird. The child will be attached to the concept, and that's normal. It's part of the natural evolution, I think, of humanity. It's normal. It's okay. But I think it's important to know that there's access to something deeper. Yeah. Yeah, I like them all. Yeah. You enter. You experience different things. And ultimately, this is what happens to us as human beings. We're exchanging. That's why that beautiful soul called called the Christ, said, I want to give you fullness. Not the cheap stuff that you're using. I want to give you the fullness of that whole life. Because he recognized that we were using concepts. So that's all we use in life. We stop using our experience. Animals use the experience. Animals are very in tune with their experience. But human beings, we're not. We sort of lost that. And we'll regain it. We'll regain it. That's the story of the prodigal son. We're gonna come back. But right now we're lost in thought. I think that's the evolutionary process we're in right now, is to be lost in thought. And so we have access to the fullness, but we don't access it. No one taught us to. What that beautiful soul and many others were trying to teach us got hijacked by the ego, and so it turned into belief systems rather than looking for the experience. And so we're condemned in a way to have beliefs as opposed to experiences. In his and many other words, living in poverty. Completely living in poverty. No longer have access to experience. What you gave me here? Imagine that. Just imagine that. Imagine exchanging the experience of something in life, like a breath, or being in front of someone, listening to them attentively, paying attention to your loved one, to your child, exchanging that for a memory and an idea. Talk about poverty. And exchanging the taste of water or the taste of food or fruit for an idea of it. And I think this is why we can't behave. We're trying to be good people, but we keep getting hijacked by our own egos. We're trying to be good people, good citizens, good this, good that, but we keep getting hijacked because we keep exchanging the experience in a way for a concept, and we believe in concepts. But that's the law. See, it's a concept. We exchange the concept for the experience. We have access to vastness and we live very cheap. Very cheap. And that's what the job of the artist is, to point to that, either through their paintings, through their living. It's the job of every human being, really, but the artist manifest is really nice, just like a dancer or an actor or a musician. Because in order to create that, you really can't think. If you really are there. And so, an athlete, one of the reasons we love watching sports is because athletes manifest that for brief moments when they're running after that ball or they're in the zone, they're manifesting that. They're manifesting that. And so it feels good to watch that because you know that's in you too. I'm not saying that you can be Michael Jordan. That's not what I'm saying. Or LeBron James or whoever is the great athlete, of the moment. Um, I don't really follow sports, so my sport analogies are horrible. Something like that. And ultimately, that's what happens, my friends. But it's something that each one of us has to experience. Right? If I mention this and it becomes an idea of, oh man, I heard Jose Trujillo talk about this, it must be true, it loses its power. The power can only be found when you experience it yourself. It's got nothing to do with me. When you experience it yourself, then you start realizing for yourself. That's why the ancient Greek, know thyself. Pay attention to yourself. Know thyself. Pay attention to yourself. Attention doesn't mean that you start thinking about yourself. No. Pay attention to yourself. Pay attention to your breath. Pay attention to your movements. Just look at them. Attention just means observation. Intense observation. Not thought. Not, I wonder what's the distance between this and that. Let me measure it. I'm going to pay attention. That's not attention. That's analysis. Analysis is different. Analysis requires thinking process and measures and weights. Attention is just observation. It cuts through all that bullshit and just looks at it. Doesn't give it a name. Doesn't ask for anything in return. It just looks at it like a child. When a child is born, they just look. The eyes of newborns cut through everything. That's why we celebrate so much newborns. It cuts through everything. They're sharp. They're sharp as swords. They cut through all the bullshit. And they melt anyone's heart. Because they're paying attention. Which is what we crave as human beings. We crave our friends, our parents, our spouses to give us attention. Our bosses. Give me attention. Give me recognition. We crave that because no one taught us to give attention. Attention is the most valuable asset in the world. And only a handful of people probably know it. And when we find out how valuable it is, unfortunately, we begin to monetize it. It's what we know how to do with resources. We profit from them. And so, marketers, salespeople, we all know that attention is the most valuable asset in economy, but spiritually, it's also the most valuable asset, and it's far greater what you can get out of it spiritually than economically. Attention is the ultimate asset. And everybody has boatloads of it. And we all think that we need it, right? From other people. But everybody has enough attention. Every person has all the attention in the world. It's like who said this? I think Lao Tzu said that it's like a bellows. You know, those old things that push out air. If you look for it, there's no air in there. It's like a fan, right? It keeps giving air. All you have to do is keep using it. Right? It keeps giving air, and so you look, where's the air coming from? That's what attention is. If you keep looking for where's it coming from, you can't find it. It's infinite. Everybody has access to it, but we crave it as if we don't have any access to it, and we're sad and we cry and we feel horrible if we feel like it's not given to us because we're stuck with it, right? We're stuck. Evolutionary, it's important. Developmental, right? When you're a child, you need the attention of your parents. It's important. The reassurance at that stage, it's extremely needed and required. That as we're growing up, if you keep believing and not experiencing that we have all the attention necessary inside, I mean, we have oceans of attention, galaxies of it, and we beg for it. One of the greatest tragedies of humanity. The belief that we are not enough and that we need something. Look at that. But spiritually, you are born to endure anything, because spiritually you're the space. So a space can hold anything. That's the beauty of space, right? Space can hold anything because it doesn't need to hold. Right? Imagine infinite space. It can hold anything. The power of space. It can hold anything. It doesn't. Nothing is required. It bypasses the laws of physics because it's not physical. There's nothing physical about space. So it completely bypasses the laws of physics. Lunchtime, huh?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna go eat now too. Give me a second, okay? I'm almost finished with this painting.
Okay. Hi, Charlotte. Dance, boy? Yes, come on.
So there's nothing you can really not go through or experience in life or pass through, because ultimately, speaking deeper, right? Ultimately, you're not your body, you're the space in which everything is occurring. So, but again, if it's a belief, it's not experience, right? So it's got to be experience. We're not meant to lack. I'm not talking about physical lack. Probably that's not, we're not meant for that either. But the deeper lack. We're not meant to lack. In a way, it's almost like everything belongs to you because you're the space where everything is occurring. Not belongs as in possession. Not as possession. It'd be like a drop of water or a wave getting out of the ocean into the shore. Confused only and not understanding that the wave is the ocean. It's not part of the ocean, is the ocean. Look at that.
Is it your lunchtime now, Daniel?
It's my lunchtime for sure. My friends, I'm gonna let you go now.
Daniel, will you go get some plates from the...
I
Yeah.
gotta eat me a nice lunch right now that my wife ordered. And I'll talk to you guys. Soon later. Stay cool. Stay real. Take care, my friends.